Millions of years ago, the gods from the heavenly realm descended to the human realm and killed the ancient god known as Gaia. They claimed the human realm as their own and left Gaia's body there to rot. As time passed, an egg-shaped rock formed where her grave lay, creating the stone monkey known as Jachinde-san. Welcome to Raza Studios, and today we'll be going over part 1 of God of Highschool's protagonist, Jin Mori's life. If you enjoy webtoons or manhwa, don't forget to subscribe and turn on notifications for more videos on your favorite webtoons and manhwa. Enjoy! Born with no parents, Jachinde-san was raised and taken care of by monkeys. A year later, after noticing the presence of Subbeauty, another ancient god like Gaia, he asks Subbeauty to train him. Initially, Subbeauty refuses his request, but quickly changes his mind and decides to give Jachinde-san a chance. Subbeauty drops Jachinde-san in the monster den and promises to teach him magic if he manages to survive a whole night in the den. Subbeauty returns the next day and surprisingly finds out that not only did Jachinde-san survive, but that he also managed to completely dominate the monsters within the den. And so, Subbeauty takes in Jachinde-san as his student and trains him for 17 years. Jachinde-san is a natural-born genius and is easily able to master every skill and technique that Subbeauty shows him. However, Jachinde-san is not satisfied with his current power and points to the sky. Jachinde-san hated the idea of having someone above him, and so he decides to climb to the top to be better than even the gods. Before he could face the gods, Jachinde-san had to prepare. He needed to find himself a suitable weapon and some armor. For armor, he went to the legendary blacksmith Hephaestus, a famous blacksmith known for creating Tathagata's sword, King Uma's fan, and even Hercules' club. He asked Hephaestus to give him armor stronger than barbadium, a material known as the strongest metal in the heavenly realm. However, in order to carry out his order, Hephaestus told Jachinde-san that he needed to bring her someone alive or to bring their soul, but Jachinde-san refused and left. Time passes and Jachinde-san returns when he finds out that Hephaestus' workshop had been destroyed. He finds her heavily wounded and discovers that Tathagata had betrayed her and destroyed her shop. Before dying, she informs Jachinde-san that she has the ultimate material ready for his armor and that he passed her test. By refusing to kill innocents in order to make himself more powerful, he proved that he was worthy of her greatest creation. She told him to place her in the furnace, and with her own soul she would create Jachinde-san's armor, Yongje. Next, he needed to find a weapon. With Hephaestus dead, Jachinde-san went to the next best place and went to visit the Dragon King's armory. The Dragon King introduced Jachinde-san to all the best weapons made by the dragons and told him to choose his favorite. Surprisingly, Jachinde-san wasn't interested by the weapons on display and was instead drawn to one of the columns in the Dragon Palace, a device that was originally used by the dragons to measure the East Sea. Satisfied by his choice, the Monkey King took the column and named it Yui as the Dragon Palace collapsed, and the Dragon King cursed at him. With both his armor and weapons at hand, Jachinde-san formed his army. His army consisted of the monsters, known as the Mount Hagwa monkeys. He also had allies like the Ox King, also known as King Uma, and the Rock Demon King, also known as Baryuda. Together with his friends and soldiers, Jachinde-san waged war against the gods, signifying the First Heavenly Great War. It was during this war that the Monkey King made a name for himself. He took out many of the gods' forces, causing the gods to grow wary of him. The gods sent many of their best to take down Jachinde-san, but time after time, the Monkey King came out on top. Although Jachinde-san was powerful, it was his selfishness and arrogance that would lead to his downfall. It was during the height of the war that the monster forces were beginning to lose their ground. Jachinde-san was spreading his forces too thin and pushing his men too hard, while King Uma and her forces tried to hold their ground in the monster realm. The Monkey King relentlessly tried to push his forces onward up the heavenly realm. Tired of his havoc, the Jade Emperor sent his servant, the Nine Tails, to intercept and stop Jachinde-san. Jachinde-san ends up losing to the Nine Tails and is imprisoned within the 8 trigrams prison, where he is baked alive for 49 days. Eventually, the Hagwa monkeys find out where he is imprisoned, and they help break him out. With their backs against the wall, Jachinde-san's soldiers beg for him to come and save them from the gods. But the selfish, self-centered king ignores their cries for help and goes off to face the gods by himself, leaving his soldiers to suffer and die. The monsters lose the war to the gods, and Jachinde-san suffers a devastating defeat to Tathagata and is trapped under a mountain for 500 years. Many years later, He eventually meets Xuanzang, who asks for him to accompany her on her journey to India. Tathagata allowed Jechendae-san to serve as Xuanzang's bodyguard, as punishment for his crimes against the gods. He promises them that if they complete the journey, then they would all become Buddha. Jechendae-san traveled with Xuanzang and her 2 other bodyguards and students, Baji and Wujing. It was during this journey that Xuanzang taught the cold-hearted Monkey King how to love and to create bonds. It was through her teachings that Jechendae-san was able to grow as a person and reflect on his past mistakes, and eventually he fell in love with Xuanzang. The group makes it to India and finds Tathagata waiting for them with one final test. The final test is for Xuanzang to offer herself as an offering. But Xuanzang refuses to be Tathagata's offering because she knows that it would make Jechendae-san sad. Disappointed by Xuanzang's resolve, Tathagata deems Xuanzang a failure and kills her along with Baji and Wujing. Jechendae-san, in shock, asks why Tathagata is breaking his promise, but the god only laughs at the Monkey King's face as he slaughters his close friends. Having no other option, Xuanzang tells Jechendae-san to eat her body, in order to give himself the strength to beat Tathagata. Reluctantly, he eats her body and gets a boost in power. With this new boost in power, Jechendae-san faces Tathagata once more, but this time he takes down the supreme god by driving his yoi through the god's head, killing him. After the battle, Jechendae-san is left exhausted and drifting in space on the brink of death. But Subhuti and the Jade Emperor help the stone monkey and save his life. To give him time to heal, Subhuti reverts Jechendae-san back into a baby and creates a clone to protect him. He then sends Jechendae-san to the human realm. About 20 years prior to the God of Highschool tournament, Jin Taejin and his men, during their mission, come across Jechendae-san's clone and engage it in a fight. Taejin beats the clone, and as a result, the clone deems Taejin worthy and hands over Jechendae-san for Taejin to protect. 17 years prior to the God of Highschool tournament, while Taejin is fighting against the Six, Jechendae-san awakens from his slumber and causes a huge explosion. After climbing out of the rubble, Taejin picks up the baby Jechendae-san and celebrates his birthday and names the baby Jin Mori. That concludes part 1 of Jin Mori's life. If you would like to see part 2, make sure to get this video up to 100 likes. Also make sure to follow me on my other social media for more Webtoon and manhwa content. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys next week.